coast is clear. Clear as a cloudless spring night. Pure and undisturbed. Safe to set out from, voyage out from. To explore new waters, discover the wonder of other worlds, of stories and experiences I can see on the horizon or sense somewhere not far over it, that are calling, singing me through the blue, the deep, the sparkle to them. Ones inviting me to enter, tell, and share them with others on the free and clear way I make now to and through them. Yes, this is your poet, illuminator, and guiding spirit in the poetosphere, Colin Goedecke. A voice here since the spring of 2020 for living our days more fully, more alively, more poetically. Welcome to the final floating poetry broadcast in my 4-year series, and thank you for leaning in here to show 208, a swan song, coming to you live once more from New England, from the clear as glass coast of Rhode Island. It has been a great joy to create and bring to you and the listening world this series, and enlivening and enlightening you through it, a body of work I'm very proud of. Know that all 208 shows will stay afloat on YouTube and on other streaming platforms I'll be placing them on. It's time to transition to a new, different, and shorter form, but no less engaging series, the title of which is What Brings You Alive, where I'll be talking solo and with others about different dimensions and experiences of vibrant aliveness, including challenges and questions, calls and responses to it, and opportunities for transformation by entering and fully embodying your own. The programs in the new series will be free to all and still appear on Wednesday nights every other week. They'll be featured on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Substack, and other known platforms, and on my YouTube channel on the What Brings You Alive playlist that will be there ahead, and at thepoetosphere.com. I invite you to keep leaning in and finding much worthwhile in what's coming. I'm excited about all the fresh possibilities for illuminating and inspiring you there. Well, last week's broadcast was True Wealth on Abundance, where we opened into abundance, especially outside the material kinds, from the precious vitality of our bodies and spirits, to the wealth of our loving relationships, to the treasures of nature and the deeper wisdoms of our cultures. For this broadcast, to wind us out, the coast is clear. We're going out to coast and shores, to opening, beckoning, and singing waters and horizons, places of beauty, mystery, depth, and freedom, places where we can enter states of fresh ponder and pure wonder, where much else is newly imaginable, possible, and sometimes elemental in helping us change the sense of our inner selves or the course of our outer lives. So, I've shaped a closing show for you, for us, and all future listeners and finders of the broadcast, of cultural commentary, poetry, quotes, anecdotes, and inquiry around this theme, including sharings about it from various listeners. And for the curtain-lowering occasion, words from them and others about how the floating poetry broadcast have meaningfully engaged or inspired them over the 4-year run. Magic, I hope, keeps happening for you and many across time and space. I'll certainly be keeping an eye and ear out about that. With that said, let's take ourselves into a vivid shoreline and seascape. New York City, August 2015, on Adam Van Doren's painting Ocean with Clouds. A sun-gouashed frolic. A sky so jolly, flapping with banners of French blue verdigris. The ocean as bright below the horizon. A sun-gouashed frolic of shape, shadow, salt water, foam. In the Cyclades in Greece, August 2012, the road to Kaliskia. The ochre earth road spools down, sails out, plunges into sapphire, into the swaying sea. Marble-strewn coves shelter solitary boats, sun-blown branches, slow-swimming bodies. A lyre wind plays gently, lyrically, over the waters, over the wonders. On Sea Point Beach near Jerish Island, Kittery, Maine, June 2017. Point of convergence, of pine green land, of ash gray sand studded with bleached oyster shells, wave-washed stones, of clear cold sea, of a slow-moving scrim of salt-white mist soft over the surfaces, echoing a low tide of blue-bordered clouds, of an unveiled body and spirit of a free-floating man, poet, coming together on a solitary, salutary Maine coast morning. The famous explorer Sir Richard Francis Burton said one cannot look at the sea without wishing for the wings of a swallow. Joseph Conrad, from his novel Heart of Darkness, watching a coast as it slips by the ship is like thinking about an enigma. There it is before you, smiling, frowning, inviting, grand, mean, insipid, or savage, and always mute with an air of whispering, "Come and find out." Megan Miranda, from her book Vengeance. My mother always wanted to live near the water, she said. She said it's the one thing that brings us all together. That I can have my toe in the ocean off the coast of Maine, and a girl my age can have her toe in the ocean off the coast of Africa, and we would be touching on opposite sides of the world. Matthew Arnold, from his poem Dover Beach. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. On the French coast the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. And Carl Safina, from The View from Lazy Point, A Natural Year in an Unnatural World. The coast is an edgy place. Living on the coast presents certain stark realities and a wild, rare beauty. Continent confronts ocean. Weather intensifies. It's a place of tide and tantrum, of flirtations among fresh and salt waters, forests and shores, of tense negotiations with an ocean that gives much but demands more. Every year the raw rim that is this coast gets hammered and reshaped like molten bronze. This place roils with power and a sometimes terrible beauty. The coast remains youthful, daring, uncertain about tomorrow. The guessing, the risk. In a way, we're all thrill seekers here. Well, I knew David White had some things of note to offer. This is from his Substack, First Horizons. Every work begins as an intimation and discovery, like the first time as a child we walk to the edge of a Yorkshire field, glimpse a new horizon, and immediately want to go there. We do not know where the horizon will take us. We have a glimmering, an inclination, a notion that somehow we will find something beyond our present knowledge. The excitement is palpable and belongs to the horizon and our young anticipatory bodies at the same time. We run toward it, glad and unthinking. The mere presence of horizon itself grants us a sense of freedom. This sense of freedom is not confined to physical landscape. Each of us somewhere in the biography of our childhood remembers a moment where we felt a portion of the world calling and beckoning to us. We are creatures of belonging, and as our growing consciousness as a child forms, we look for the expressions of our belonging in every quarter. Out of this sense of belonging, the world seems to call to us, to recognize us, and to speak to us directly. The voice itself an embodiment of our particular nature and the way that nature finds a home in the world. At best, this conversation between ourselves and the world becomes our work. The inner compass almost always leads us back toward that childhood we have spent so much time trying to leave behind. We return there not to become a child again, but to remember those instinctual joys which filled our imaginations in growing bodies and set our enthusiastic course into the world. There is something trustable about the original enthusiasms of the very young that point directly toward the way we are made. Yes, indeed. Thank you, David White, for that. Very much. Okay. The great naturalist, Barry Lopez, said the effort of the imagination is to turn the boundary into a horizon. The boundary says, here and no further. The horizon says, welcome. Wonderful. I love that. And that was quoted in Emergence magazine, wonderful online magazine, where they said in that particular piece, we curated a selection of stories that speak to the theme of living with the unknown. As we navigate the uncertain waters of our time, stories themselves can serve as anchors, inviting us to hold questions, revealing new paths to connection, and helping us sit in the company of mystery. Well, as we are traversing these shores, these shorelines, lifelines, some questions for you about the coast. The coast is clear. Maybe most of all, I'm curious about where, in some important part of your life, especially some needed turning point or inflection point, the coast became clear. And what followed? What did it lead to? Where did it ultimately take you or make possible? That's one big question. Another is, where are you now on the shore of yourself or your life right now? What's the look of it, the sound, the atmosphere of it, if you had to put it in words? And what about the metaphorical seascape around you, where the surrounding world is an ocean of a kind? What's it filled with? What are the currents, the colors? I'd also like to ask, while we're together here, how you are clearing the way for yourself to expand your own horizons, or travel on to the next one that's calling you. And yes, I would surely welcome hearing about your experiences of leaning into these shows, leaning with your heart, mind, spirit, imagination, whatever you've leaned in with, into them, and what they've stirred or sparked along the way, what they've meant to you, or meaningfully brought to you, or through your sharing of them to others. And speaking of sharing, let me tell you what I heard from various listeners and others who wonderfully weighed in on this last asking of mine prior to the final broadcast we are in. There were many lovely expressions of thanks and thumbs up and urgings to keep up the wonderful, meaningful work, which I surely will, with vibrance, vividness, and, true to my nautical nature, with saltiness. Anne in Monroe, New York, wrote to say, congratulations on the great run of broadcasting. And the show image is a beauty. Love the birds illuminated in the sun with a gorgeous blue sky and wispy cirrus clouds. Thank you, Anne. And as some of you know or don't know all of the images, virtually all except maybe one or two in the entire series, are all my work, all my visual poetry, which can be found in the Poetosphere, and it can be found elsewhere on some other sites. From Jim in New York City and Rhode Island, thanks for all you do. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Jim. From Patrick in Italy in Orvieto, the final one? Oh no, I shall listen. Well, I love that. He's obviously going to be listening now, or hopefully he should be asleep right now. It's rather late there, but maybe he is listening. He's got the night light on. Grazie, Patrick. I'll talk to him about it after. From Jean in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, this is a huge achievement. Best of luck with your new podcast series, Colin. Tante belle cose. Thank you, Jean, very much. And Tim, out in Seattle, the new podcast sounds fabulous. Tim, it will be so. Thank you for that. I feel the well-wishing. And here to round up this call and response segment of the show are some messages sent by voice. 2 short clips to play for you. First is from Tiffany in Los Angeles. So give me a moment. I'll cue that up.
At the end of what might have been a whirlwind day, it was always nice to tune in to the deep serenity of your voice and have you take us on a journey where we could have our own visualization of the words you're speaking and just to be opened up to poetry. I've always loved it, and I love listening to it. But I actually don't know a lot about it myself. I mean, other than different poems maybe I've read or quotes that resonate with me. So it really was a journey in so many ways. It opened you up to a new art. It opened you up to a new feeling. And the visualization that you could create your own pictures from your voice of the journey and the story you're telling. And it was always very much a calming time to just lean in, as you'd say. And there were many that I loved over the years. I am very partial to dogs, so that special that you did was very fun to me. And at a time where my own dog was having troubles, and she's just so special, so it really meant a lot. I will miss the floating poetry series. But they'll also be out there, right? It all lives out there forever. And I'm excited for the new endeavors of the Poetosphere. Onward and upward, love and light. Thank you, Colin, for your dedication and bringing us the weekly series of the floating poetry.
Thank you, Tiffany, for sending that. And yes, all the shows will be out there, as I'd said earlier. They definitely will live on. Definitely maybe be on my own time. That would be interesting. Maybe they will. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that very much, what you had to say. And here's B in Rhode Island.
Sailor man! Sailor man, you're leaving port. After 48 months, you've been quite a sport. The planning, the spanning of works large and small, unknown and famous, I've come to know them all. Where are you headed? What will you see? Capture the stories and insights ×3. And in the fleeting moments when headwinds are fierce, remember the sunlight will eventually pierce. So onward you go, mainsail tucked, taut and tight. Remember we were listening to our lives through all those good nights. Well done.
wonderful. And from the ocean, thank you, B, so much. Absolutely wonderful. For the sailor man, I am a sailor man, literally and figuratively, yes. Well, Rachel Carson came to mind as I was sourcing material for us, her splendid book, Edge of the Sea. It was an ambitious guide to the seashore. The place, she said, she found, quote, a sense of the unhurried deliberation of earth processes that move with infinite leisure, with all eternity at their disposal. She also said in that book, on all these shores there are echoes of past and future, of the flow of time, obliterating yet containing all that has gone before, of the sea's eternal rhythms, the tides, the beat of surf, the pressing rivers of the currents, shaping, changing, dominating, of the stream of life, flowing as inexorably as any ocean current, from past to unknown future. Contemplating the teeming life of the shore, we have an uneasy sense of the communication of some universal truth that lies just beyond our grasp. What is the message signaled by the hordes of diatoms flashing their microscopic lights in the night sea? What truth is expressed by the legions of the barnacles, whitening the rocks with their habitations, each small creature within finding the necessities of its existence in the sweep of the surf? And what is the meaning of so tiny a being as the transparent wisp of protoplasm that is a sea lace, existing for some reason inscrutable to us, a reason that demands its presence by the trillion amid the rocks and weeds of the shore? The meaning haunts and ever eludes us, and in its very pursuit, we approach the ultimate mystery of life itself. Rachel Carson. Well, have you felt yourself in this place of communication, friends, of communion? And here's another book in league with that, with those ideas and feelings of hers, on the unphotographable. This is Rowan Jacobson's The Living Shore, Rediscovering a Lost World. Wonderful book. Let's give you a slice of that. When the full moon hauls back the waters, they emerge, a glittering band along the shore like doubloons washed up from the wreck of a Spanish galleon. They close their shells tight and, for a few hours, become land. Bears slip out of the cedary woods and trundle over them, picking at small fish that lingered too long. From a distance you might think they were glinting rocks, just another cobbly beach, but rather than acres of living coastline. But if you stepped out of your boat and explored, old shells popping softly beneath your boots, you'd smell their salt spray aroma and hear the crackling of receding water droplets and know that they were the living sea itself, holding on to the land to keep it from squirming away. And if you sat down among them and pried open some shells and tipped the briny flesh into your mouth, you might get some sense of how it had always been. On the Yucatan coast of Mexico, Océano. A silhouette of boat floats on a glimmering sea of noonday stars, black on white, iron on silver, wood on glass, with shapes of men plucking cool fish into the warm air like flowers from their beds. Craig Santos Perez has a beautiful praise poem for the ocean, praise song for Oceania. He wrote this for a World Oceans Day. Not sure what year that was. It starts with a quote from Linda Hogan from the Turtle Watchers. As if there is a path where beings truly meet, as if I am rounding the human corners. Praise your capacity for birth, fluid currents and trenchant darkness. Praise our briny beginning, source of every breath. Praise your capacity for renewal, ascent into clouds and descent into rain. Praise your underground aquifers, rivers and lakes, ice sheets and glaciers. Praise your watersheds and hydrologic cycles. Praise your capacity to endure the violation of those who map you aqua nullius. who claim dominion over you, who pillage and divide your body into latitudes and longitudes, who scar your middle passages. Praise your capacity to survive our trawling boats breaching your open wounds and taking from your collapsing depths. Praise your capacity to dilute our heavy metals and greenhouse gases, sewage and radioactive waste, pollutants and plastics. Praise your capacity to bury our shipwrecks and ruined cities. Praise your watery grave, human reef of bones. Praise your capacity to remember, your library of drowned stories, museum of lost treasures, your vast archive of desire. Praise your tidalectics, your migrant routes and submarine routes. Praise your capacity to smother whales and fish and wash them ashore, to save them from our cruelty, to show us what we're no longer allowed to take, to starve us like your coral starved and bleached liquid lungs choked of oxygen. Praise your capacity to forgive. Please forgive our territorial hands and acidic breath. Please forgive our nuclear arms and naval bodies. Please forgive our concrete dams and cabling veins. Please forgive our deafening sonar and lustful tourisms. Please forgive our invasive drilling and deep-sea mining. Please forgive our extractions and trespasses. Please let my grandpa catch just one more fish. Please make it stop raining soon. Please make it rain soon. Please spare our fragile farms and fruit trees. Please spare our low-lying island and atolls, our coastal villages and cities. Please let us cross safely to a land without war. Praise your capacity for healing. Praise your cleansing rituals. Praise your holy baptisms. Please protect our daughter when she swims in your currents. Praise your halcyon nest. Praise your Pacific stillness. Praise your breathless calm. Praise your capacity for hope, your rainbow warrior and peace boat. Praise your hokulea and sea shepherd. Praise your Arctic sunrise and freedom flotillas, your nuclear-free and independent Pacific movement, your marine stewardship councils and sustainable fisheries, your radical seafarers and native navigators. Praise your sacred water walkers, your activist kayaks and traditional canoes. Praise your ocean conservancies and surf rider foundations, your aquanauts and hydrolabs, your ocean cleanup and Google Oceans. Praise your whale hunting and shark finning bands. Praise your sanctuaries and take-no zones and no-take zones. Praise your pharmacopoeia of new antibiotics, your ocean optimism, hashtag, and ocean elders. Praise your wave and tidal energy. Praise your blue humanities. Praise your capacity for echolocation, our names for you that translate into creation stories and song maps. Praise your capacity for communion. Praise our common heritage. Praise our pathway and promise to each other, our most powerful metaphor, your vision of belonging. Praise our endless saga. Praise your blue planet, one world ocean. Praise our transoceanic past, present, future, flowing through our blood. Thank you. Praise song for Oceania. Thank you, Craig Santos Perez, from his collection Habitat Threshold. And I wonder if you have praised the ocean any time recently, dear listeners, and if not, would you sometime? And if you have, I hope it was heartful. Maybe it was silent or spoken or sung, maybe danced. Tuscany, Italy, Forte dei Marmi, 1997. The Old God and His Sailboat. He stands, half in sea, half in air, a Neptune making sport with a small red boat, using a large bronze hand to tend a course on the now glinting waves. He wonders, half wet, half dry, why his godlike motions have little effect, how the wind has a will of its own on this warm, silver afternoon in Tirrenia. Well, little did I know that what was to be a passing through this coast, this ocean state, became a belonging here, and a happily staying ever since. Well, I wrote this as I set foot in Rhode Island, where a new life began and continued, serendipitously unfolded. January 2020, setting sail. The time and tide have come to set sail, to hoist the mizzen mast of this yearning body and spirit, weigh anchor and follow the course of my intuition, my inner navigation, north by coast to New England, to Rhode Island, and there chart a fresh chapter by the sea and its salty music, at the feet of the reflected sun and rhyming waves of clouds, moons, and stars. Arthur Say, S-C-E, he's still around, 1950 was his birth date. White Sands. Walking along a ridge of white sand, it's cooler below the surface. We stop and, gazing at an expanse of dunes to the west, watch a yellow yolk of sun drop to the mountains. An hour earlier, we rolled down a dune, white sand flecked our eyelids and hair. A claret cup cactus blooms, and soap tree yuccas move as a dune moves. So many years later, on a coast, waves rolling to shore, wave after wave, I see how our lives have unfolded, a sheen of wave after whitening wave. And we are stepping barefoot, rolling down a dune, white flecks on our lips, on our eyelids. We are lying in a warm dune as a full moon lifts against an ocean of sky. Lovely. Thank you, Arthur Zay. New poem to me. Well, you know, I often have songs that come to mind, and I was thinking about in 1942 in wartime France when the wonderful singer Charles Trenet wrote this song on a train traveling through the south part of France. Beautiful song, the original song, the French, not Bobby Darin's version. However, you may like that, but it was sort of another kind of interpretation. La mer. La mer, quand vont danser le long des gaffes clairs, a des reflets d'argent, la mer, des reflets changeants sous la pluie. La mer, au ciel d'été, confond ses blancs moutons, avec les ans si purs, la mer, bergère d'azur infinie. And there are other verses, but isn't it just beautiful? It captures so much of him and the time and other things. There's also a wonderful folk song. You can find it on YouTube. Thomas L. Thomas sang it a long time ago. I think, the 20s or 30s, certainly I don't think much later. I came across it there. I'd heard about it, and I loved him singing it. It's from 1922, actually. So it might have been somewhere after that, late 20s or 30s, he sang it. From the Scottish Hebrides, The Little Stars of Doona. Go listen to him sing it. I could give you a little bit of it, but he does it much more beautifully, and he's also from there. When I was a little lad, with folly on my lips, fain was I for journeying all the seas in ships. But now across the southern swell, every dawn I hear the little streams of Doona running clear. The little streams of Doona running clear. When I was a young man, before my beard was grey, all to ships and sailormen I gave my heart away. But I'm weary of the sea wind, I'm weary of the foam, and the little stars of Doona call me home. The little stars of Doona call me home. Yeah. Thank you for whoever wrote that. I'm not sure. On the Sea and the Soul by the poet, painter, and philosopher Etel Adnan, A-D-N-A-N. This is from her volume Sea and Fog. Wonderful book. Here's some things she said. The sea, nothing else. Walls ruptured. Sea, water tumbling. Dryness peels away the soul, caught in gravity's unconquerable solitude. The body's magnetized metals turn naturally north. The face, with eyes, mouth, and nostrils, strains to remember intricate mental constructions, bones and dust over dust. The sea's instincts collaborate with ours to create thinking. Our thoughts come and go, in birth and evanescence. We feel we own them, but we're the ones to belong to the radiations that they are, lighter than fog, but endearing in their unreliability. Let your back lie on the water and be a raft for birds. Then in the middle of the night, dive. Your ears will ring, spit fire. The waters will remember that once they were you. Elemental, elemental, and we are here, anywhere, so long as space would be. It's given to us. Sea, ocean, sea, permanent revelation. Open revelation of itself to itself. Mind approximates those lit lines in the front, that darkness above, meant not to understand but to penetrate, to silence itself while heightening its power, to reach vision in essential unknowing. For seeing the sea, it's sometimes better to close one's eyes. Without a body, there's no soul, and without the latter, there's no way to speak about the sea. What about the invocations we make, or have made, or will make at the edge of some sea? This is one of mine on Hydrusa, as it was called in ancient times, Kea, in the Cyclades, back in 2012, summer. Let the gods speak. Let the sea and wind gods speak to me, sing to me of their storms and serenities. Let the dry earth yield up its new and ancient fruits and flowers, its hidden waters. Let the clear air carry my own voice into these hills, into these stones, into this sea. Remember that moment every time I read that, and even if I'm not reading it, as I open to what that place of great antiquity might have to say to my spirit and my soul, and it had much to say. Much. Elma Dean, has a beautiful sestina I came across. I didn't know her before. New poet and poem. Sestina for a certain coast. This is a country where dark trees lie flat to cliffs, the clean trade wind, a sea sound in them, always running, as through the caves below, the water, and always gulls in circle flight over the dominating rocks. In April, I have known these rocks to flower like young apple trees. This is the time the great spring flight of surfbirds, thickening on wind, dives down, screams, strikes the misty water, feeds where the shining smelt are running. And I have seen sandpipers running between the lick of wave and rocks to find sand fleas and moon-pushed water turned up last night, while matted trees made two-dimensional by wind shelter the land birds after flight. Something in fall directs the flight of birds to where the streams are running and days are mild. Each landward wind brings in its cloud of wings to rocks. Even the twisted cypress trees are haven after endless water. Some of the violence of water is gone by autumn. The blue flight of cranes is in the alder trees. That brilliant snake, the trout stream running silver among its many rocks, makes sweeter song than I think than wind. After the drought, whatever wind brings rain is good. The need for water is in the fissured land, the rocks baked long in sun. The hurried flight of clouds, black massed for northward running, promises new life for old trees. Again the wind, the inland flight of gulls, the water's steady running from roof and rocks and the blown trees. Thank you, Elma Dean. I can close my eyes and sense myself there. What about you? It's another poem I don't have time to keep time with here. Sin Time is by Anne Ridler. R-I-D-L-E-R. You can find that at poetryfoundation.org. It's very resonant, sensually and sentiently. I invite you to read that. Views of the North Coast is the title of that. This next one is it's really around the romance we can have on and with coasts, the transporting moments they can inspire. This was one of mine on Vieques Island off Puerto Rico, January of 2001. I dedicated it to the actor, the old actor, great Hollywood actor of the day, Ronald Colman. Lost Horizon. Our wood-spoked umbrella becomes a blue propeller that flies us out to sea and high up over the milky mountains of clouds to Shangri-La. Yes. David St. John, The Shore. So the tide forgets, as morning grows too far delivered, as the bowls of rock and wood run dry. What is left seems pearled and lit, as those cases of the museum stood lit with milk jade, rows of opaque vases streaked with orange and yellow smoke. You found a lavender boat, a single figure poling upstream, baskets of pale fish wedged between his legs. Today the debris of winter stands stacked against the walls. The coils of kelp lie scattered across the floor. The oil fire smokes. You turn down the lantern hung on its nail. Outside, the boats aligned like sentinels. Here, beside the blue depot, walking the pier, you can see the way the shore approximates the dream, how distances repeat their deaths above these tables and panes of water. As climbing the hills above the harbor, up to the lupin drifting among the lichen-masked pines, the night is pocked with lamps lit on every boat offshore. Galleries of floating stars. Below on its narrow track shelved into the cliff's face, the train begins its slide down to the warehouses by the harbor. Loaded with diesel, coal, paychecks, whiskey, bedsheets, slabs of ice, for the fish, for the men, you lean on my arm. As once I watched you lean at the window, the bookstalls below stretched a mile to the quay, the afternoon crowd picking over the novels and histories. You walked out as you walked out last night onto the stone porch. Dusk reddened the walls. The winds sliced off the reefs. The vines of the gorge shook on their lattice. You talked about that night. You stood behind the black pane of the French window, watching my father read some long passage of a famous voyager's book. You hated that voice filling the room, its light, so tonight we make a soft parenthesis upon the sand's black bed. In that dream we share, there is one shore where we look out upon nothing, and the sea our whole lives, until turning from those waves we find one shore where we look out upon nothing, and the earth our whole lives, where what is left between shore and sky is traced in the vague wake of the stars, the sandpipers whistling, what we forgive. If you wake soon, wake me. Thank you, David St. John, The Shore, from his Study for the World's Body, his collection. Well, this is another poem I'll pass along to you and share another time. Not on this show. And I don't know that I'll be sharing poetry on the new series. It's not about that. There might be some poetic, certainly moments, but very different focus. But it's by Sarah Holland Batt, hyphenated, B-A-T-T, Thalassography. Wonderful poem. But I will come and share with you something that Rob Bresney had to relate. He asks, which part of you is over-civilized? Which part of you is too tame, over-civilized, and super-domesticated, and what are you going to do about it? So a reader of his named Jason R. wrote, I was like a mole in a suburban backyard. I had just one little path I trod each day to the compost pile and back. I chewed on orange rinds and leftover cabbage. I was tamed by the comfort of my familiar environment, content to have a narrow vision. But then I was eaten by a hawk and became part of a wild, free body. Now I perch on the tops of trees and the peaks of roofs. I survey giddy-wide horizons, from the river to the mesa and far beyond. I have a wealth of choices, where to fly, what to hunt, who are my allies. My thoughts breathe deep, like the slow explosion of sun on the morning lake. And Bresney said, so, how would you answer that same question? Very good. James Baxter, East Coast Journey. About twilight, we came to the whitewashed pub on a knuckle of land above the bay, where a log was riding and the slow bird-winged breakers cast up spray. One of the drinkers round packing cases had the worn face of a Kumara god, or so it struck me. Later on, lying awake in the veranda bedroom, in great dryness of mind, I heard the voice of the sea reverberating and thought, as a man grows older, he does not want beer, bread, or the prancing flesh, but the arms of the eater of life, hine nuite po. with teeth of obsidian and hair like kelp, flashing and glimmering at the edge of the horizon. Thank you, James Baxter, from his selected poems. And then I came across, I didn't know about this Swedish poet who was very influential, Edith Södergran. And there's a note from the translator of the short poem, Avril Kurdi, who said the poetry of her work resides in what she says rather than how it is said. Her mood is often declarative, and her landscape is the elemental one of lyric poetry, of sea, tree, rose, and stone. Her poems often seem to arrive from the shore of something vast, whether that is the sea or mortality, or a poetic ambition so high it may strike some readers a century later as a politely unmentionable blemish because it is so earnest. So here's one of the ones she translated. Strange sea. Implausible fish bloom in the depths. Mercurial flowers light up the coast. I know red and yellow, the other colors, but the sea, that grana havet, that's most dangerous to look at. What name is there for the color that arouses this thirst, which says, the saga can happen, even to you? Thank you, Edith Södergran and Avril Kurdi, for translating that. Well, here's one of mine after The Ancient Mariner. It's from January 2019. The Poet All at Sea. How a poet, having passed the known line, was driven by storms to a foreign pole of dark shores, and how from that lost place he made his course true north to a latitude of great light, and of the curious things that came to pass on his depthful voyage, and in what manner the poet came to his truest sense and place of belonging. Too bad I couldn't have some salt spray upon me as I was talking to you through this last show here now. But I can feel it. I was out there today on the coast. Of course, I had to do that as often as possible every day that I can, and today was one of those days. It was marvelous. Well, this is from Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, who said, you have to trust that even if you burn up so much fuel on the way out that you don't have sufficient energy for the way back, you'll have yet traveled far enough to have reached another shore. You won't have to return to where you started. You'll have opened a new possibility for your life. Love that. I read that often. This next piece from Westerly, Rhode Island here, where I'm sitting, westerly by the sea. I wrote this in January of last year. I wrote it for my goddaughter Axel on her 24th anniversary of her baptism, where I actually sang Pennies from Heaven in the church back in New York in the day. But I think it relates to all of us. I know it does. It's called Bit Maps. Maybe what baptism really is, when we reassemble its pixels, a series of ever-unfolding bits of experiences, moments, that seen from above form myriad maps of a life, an atlas of your life that's unbordered, that you and serendipity make, remake, rescale, new day by new day. The cartographies of your heart, the geographies of your body, topographies of your mind, your ley lines to nature, to the horizon lines of this rapturous universe. Well, I send that out to all of you, and I send that out to her wherever she is right now, over in France where she lives. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She said, the poem of new life that comes every dawn, the soaring of the sun that is a door. Abre la puerta. Open the door. Look up, when you can, Kenneth Rexroth's poem, On What Planet? You can find that at poetryfoundation.org. I love that poem. But I will share with you David White's poem. I've read this on other shows also, but I feel it fits so perfectly here for us. Mameen, M-A-M-E-E-N. Be infinitesimal under that sky, a creature even the sailing hawk misses, a wraith among the rocks where the mist parts slowly. Recall the way mere mortals are overwhelmed by circumstance, how great reputations dissolve with infirmity, and how you, in particular, live a hair's breadth from losing everyone you hold dear. Then, look back down the path as if seeing your past, and then south over the hazy blue coast as if present to a wide future. Remember the way you are all possibilities you can see, and how you live best as an appreciator of horizons, whether you reach them or not. Admit that once you have got up from your chair and opened the door, once you have walked out into the clean air toward that edge and taken the path up high beyond the ordinary, you have become the privileged and the pilgrim, the one who will tell this story and the one coming back from the mountain who helped to make it. Thank you, David White. That's from his collection, River Flow. Let's remember we are all possibilities, friends. Remember our wide futures. Remember to take the path up beyond the ordinary. Rebecca Elson, E-L-S-O-N, some thoughts about the ocean and the universe. If the ocean is like the universe, then waves are stars. If space is like the ocean, then matter is the waves, dictating the rise and fall of floating things. If being is like ocean, we are waves, swelling, traveling, breaking on some shore. If ocean is like universe, then waves are the dark wells of gravity where stars will grow. All waves run shorewards, but there is no center to the ocean where they all arise. Thank you, Rebecca Elson. Well, I shared those two songs earlier, and I was also thinking toward the coming into our last few things now. In 1940, there was a song, "We'll Meet Again." Do you know it? Most famously, it was and originally sung by Vera Lynn. You can find that on YouTube, her singing that in the thick of England at war with Germany, and it's "We'll Meet Again." There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow when the world is free. Friends, I'm singing this song for us, for our world too, that we can come to this place again. We surely need to. Bet you want us to also. It's my daily prayer for that. And incantation, invocation, whatever you'd like to call that out to the universe. May it be so. Okay, yes, coming into our last sharings and musings for this last time here together, this last week, last show. This was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York City. And it was years back, and I was so taken by John Marin's watercolor painting Sunspots, Cape Split, Maine, 1920, that this poem came out of me. A sun-baubled sea. Off the coarse point of another time, an unfaded ocean verges out in caps and crests of cobalt, indigo, turquoise, past one small bleach-sailed boat, toward a streaking sky where the sun becomes baubles of chrome yellow, rose, madder, viridian, and cerulean, that float above the watercolor surface, that float inside my watercolored eyes. And Rachel Carson once more, when we go down to the lowest of the low tide lines and look down into the shallow waters, there's all the excitement of discovering a new world. Once you have entered such a world, its fascination grows, and somehow you find your mind has gained a new dimension, a new perspective. And always thereafter, you find yourself remembering the beauty and strangeness and wonder of that world. A world that is as real, as much a part of the universe as our own. And Iris Murdoch, this is from the final pages of her 1978 novel, The Sea, the Sea. As I lay there, listening to the soft slap of the sea and thinking these sad and strange thoughts, more and more stars had gathered, obliterating the separateness of the Milky Way and filling up the whole sky. And far, far away in that ocean of gold, stars were silently shooting and falling and finding their fates among these billions and billions of merging golden lights. And curtain after curtain of gauze was quietly removed, and I saw stars behind stars behind stars. And I saw into the vast, soft interior of the universe, which was slowly and gently turning itself inside out. I went to sleep, and in my sleep I seemed to hear a sound of singing. Thank you, Iris Murdoch. Next to last, from the Inside Passage of Southeast Alaska, 2014, Green Clouds. Green clouds lie along the surface of our coastal passage. Clouds of conifers, of Sitka spruce and cedar, shore pine, hemlock, and alder, that change shape by decades instead of days, by generations of snow and light, that share the shelter of their deep-rooted solace with the water, the earth, the birds, and sometime passing men. And a poem of mine to end this 208th broadcast with. This is from Forte dei Marmi on the Tuscan coast of Italy, October 1997. Sea Cycle. A man rides his bicycle on the sea. Salt rubs the tires. Sun reflects on the soles of his shoes as he pedals over starfish and speckled crabs, under seagulls and threaded clouds, past fishermen and upright bathers, until the pier, where he turns left and follows the sun down over the horizon. Thank you again, friends, for leaning in here today, tonight, and for all the shows you have or will sometime in this series. Thank you for thinking and feeling in, for musing with me on this theme. I'd welcome hearing your experiences of this show. The coast is clear, and of others you've heard here, have enjoyed or appreciated here, been touched or stirred by. Oh yes, I would. And I encourage you to freely share this one out to your circles or the whole floating poetry playlist now or any time in the future. If you valued this broadcast or want to recognize all of this large body of work I've made and put with care and love into the world, I'd greatly welcome any contribution you'd like to make. You can send it by Venmo to Fivefold, Fivefold, at pipeline.com, or by PayPal to the same email, or simply mail a check to me to P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island 02891, or contribute through the Donate tab at thepoetorialist.com. And as I said at the start, all the broadcasts will stay available online, on YouTube currently, on the Floating Poetry playlist there, and will appear on other familiar streaming platforms in due course. These broadcasts and the new podcast series, What Brings You Alive, are offerings through the Poetosphere, the oasis of possibility I'm guiding, which you can explore as a visitor or join as a subscriber. I encourage you to see what it's about, from conversations with deeper well-dwellers to vitalizing multisensory experiences, to our kindred community of possibilitarians. And to make joining the Poetosphere even more attractive, I've made month and year-long subscriptions available through May 20th, 2024. For first-time subscribers, you can have a membership at just $114 a year instead of $190, or $14 a month instead of $19. You'll see each code to use right on the site at the Join Us tab, thepoetosphere.com. Well, may the coast be or come clear for you, dear listeners, in whatever ways you desire them to be or to stay, and whatever that clearness allows for your life, for your deeper dreams or desires, your hidden possibilities. As I sail on to another horizon, know I'm beyond grateful for the beautiful appreciation you've shown for these shows and for the poetic arts, and your enthusiasms for my creating, curating, and hosting. Goodbye for now, friends, and ever good spirits, ever clear and shining like the sun on the sea spirits.